there as well, which is not welcome. Sorry about that. I'll just go through the preliminaries and then we'll start the meeting. The echo's still there. Okay, I'll make a start anyway. I'll just go through the preliminaries first. The meeting this evening will be a live stream meeting to the public. A recording of the meeting will be available on the council website within 24 hours of the meeting. Would remote participants please use their hands up icon in the Teams to indicate they have a question? Please turn off your camera and microphone on when addressing the committee and off when you finish. And then go on to the members of the public are entitled to take photographs, film, audio record and report on all public meetings in accordance with the openness of local government bodies regulation 2014. People may not, however, act in any way considered to be disruptive and may be asked to leave. Emergency evacuation procedure from the council chamber is turn left, follow the green emergency exit signs to the main town hall entrance and proceed to the assembly point at St George's Square. I'll go on the agenda proper now. Apologies for absence this evening.
Yes, Chair, we've received 2 apologies from Councillor Ajisola and Councillor Mbia.
Thank you. Minutes. You're here. Hello.
Apologies for Councillor Farouk.
Oh, Farouk, yeah. Minutes of the 25th of June. Okay to sign those later on. And so Section 106 Local Government Finance Act. Any declarations? Disclosure of interest. Members are reminded they must disclose both the existence and nature of any discernible pecuniary interest or personal interest.
Yes,
now?
Yeah, I have to announce that I have had a conversation with the objector on the Laboring Close application. I have offered him information on the process and the procedure to be followed. I have not discussed the merits or demerits of the application itself, so I do not feel I need to declare an interest.
Okay, thank you. And are you still a season ticket holder?
I am still a season ticket holder
in League One.
In League One, where I was in the good old days of the conference. So, season ticket holder of Luton Town Football Club. So I'm declaring an interest in relation to item 7 of the agenda. I'll also mention that I know the objector in relation to Ley Green Close Piers purely as a ward councillor and constituent. So again, I don't think I need to declare that as any kind of interest.
That's fine. You just acted in your role as ward councillor. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Urgent business. I'm not aware of any. And we'll go straight on the agenda proper. I intend to take agenda item 9, 41 Ley Green Close first, and then I'll do Power Court and then Dairy Crest. Okay. Olivia, over to you.
Good evening, members. This application is 41 Ley Green Close. It seeks retrospective planning permission for the erection of 3 outbuildings. They are to be used as a gym, storage room, and 2 storage rooms following the demolition of the pre-existing storage shed. 2 neighbours were notified of the application, and the application is subject to an update report which summarises the neighbour objection, addresses their comments, and attaches the member call-in form. The site is a linked detached property on a corner plot within Ley Green Close with a large rear garden. There are significant sized hedges and trees along the rear boundaries. The site is set on a slight hill, so ground levels increase as you go towards the rear of the garden. The current application was received following an enforcement inquiry, as the applicant was notified that permitted development rights were removed when the residential development was first built, so any outbuilding on the site and those within the area do require planning permission. So the scheme consists of 2 outbuildings joined together on the northern boundary. One is used as a gym with a lounge area, and one is used for storage. A 3rd outbuilding is attached to the southern side of the house, also used for storage purposes. The 2 outbuildings to the north are marginally set in from the boundary, leaving an approximately 0.3 metre gap. They have an overall depth together of 10.3 metres and a width of 3.1 metres. The storage building has a height of 2.3 metres, and the gym building at the rear, which is the larger section, has a height of 2.45 metres. The attached outbuilding to the south of the site infills the side area between the dwelling and the shared boundary with an approximate depth of 4 metres, a width of 2 metres, and a height of 2.35 metres. The permitted development rights have been removed from the site. However, they're usually removed for dwellings that do have small gardens and plot sizes. In this case, they would have been removed from the site as part of the wider residential development, which was historically approved. The site itself has a significantly larger rear garden compared to others in the area. With this in mind, the size and scale could be achieved under permitted development rights for all 3 structures, and given the garden area, siting and appearance of the buildings, they're not considered disproportionate or out of keeping with the site or surrounding area. The size of each outbuilding is reasonably required for the uses proposed, and the development is considered ancillary to the main dwelling, providing additional space for the enjoyment incidental to the dwelling. Located to the side and the rear of the site, the outbuildings do not result in a cramped or dominant form of development and are not readily visible from the street scene. The attached outbuilding can be accessed by the side gate, and a condition has been recommended to ensure that the building is at no point used as separate accommodation, remaining ancillary to the main dwelling. A dark grey metal cladding has been used for the external materials, and while they are not considered similar to the materials of the main dwelling, it does blend with the site's garden design and does not cause material harm to the character of the area owing to limited views. An objection was received from number 42 Ley Green Close, which is the neighbouring dwelling to the north of the site. They raised concerns regarding height, visual intrusion and impact on the amenity space. The neighbouring dwelling benefits from patio doors in their southern flank elevation, which face onto the outbuildings along the north boundary. Whilst these patio doors look onto the location of the detached outbuildings, particularly the rear outbuilding, which has a slightly taller height, there is planting along the boundary and a 1.8 metre boundary fence, making it only partly visible. Additionally, the neighbouring dwelling at number 42 has a large rear garden, which wraps around the flank and rear elevations. There are patio doors in the flank elevation, but they also have windows and doors in their rear elevation, which provide some of the broader outlook and wider views of the area. So they are not limited to a single view towards the outbuildings. Furthermore, there is significant distance between the flank elevations of the development and the neighbouring dwelling, with a large patio area, so any potential overshadowing from the outbuilding would not result in material harm to their amenities. In light of this, any visual intrusion, loss of outlook, or overshadowing is limited and would not warrant a refusal. No comments were received from the attached neighbour at number 40 Ley Green Close. The attached outbuilding only protrudes above the existing boundary treatment by approximately half a metre, owing to its single-storey height, flat roof design and the existing gap between the flank elevations. With a favourable orientation, the attached outbuilding would not result in any unacceptable loss of light, outlook or visual intrusion. Whilst the outbuildings are partly visible to the neighbours, their size, scale, siting and screening from boundary treatment does not result in significant harm to the amenities of the adjoining occupiers. The site benefits from a paved front drive, and the parking spaces on the site meet the local requirements. The development would not result in any additional bedrooms or loss of parking, and therefore highway engineering was not consulted on the application. To conclude, the proposal is not considered to have a harmful effect on the character and appearance of the surrounding area or the amenities of the adjoining occupiers. The proposal is therefore in accordance with the local plan and the NPPF, and on that basis, the recommendation before members is to grant planning permission subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
That have been brought by the objector. So if members want to take a look at them, if you haven't seen them, then please do it now. Oh, the applicant, sorry, not the objector, the applicant. And Gary Needham, the objector. Do you want to see the pictures as well? Have you come down and have a look at them? Because they were a late submission. If you can find your way through. He's got to find his way back yet. There's a microphone in the seat. If you sit there, okay.
Hearing. I know people speaking, heard much of what is being said. Do I not ask questions?
I'll ask people to speak directly into the microphone because okay, you've got up to 5 minutes to speak, and that member just ask questions afterwards. So ready when you are.
Right, thank you. Thank you for putting me on first. I've been fancy being the tail end Charlie at whatever time in the evening. 6 months after I first raised major concerns, here I am at last. Can I start by making 2 quick corrections to the planning officer's follow-up report? First, I did not dispute the accuracy of the height measurements provided in the plans. Rather, I was challenging the absence of other heights on the two-way sloping ground, which give different readings. The max height at the rear of the building, the gym, is 2.75, not 2.45. Similarly, the roof height difference between the 2 adjoining buildings may well be 25 centimetres at the front, but it's 40 centimetres at the back. Again, not evident in the plans. Perhaps I'm the only person who's actually taken measurements there. As Alan Clark once famously put it, economical with the actuality. Second, just to clarify, my objection was not submitted late. Thursday the 14th was the closure date given for the online comments. Yet from the previous Saturday the 9th, and perhaps even earlier, the comments section was turned off. I still await an explanation for that. There is little point in rehashing many of my views on this building, which I actually dubbed a Felixstowe shipping container. Not that I have anything against Felixstowe. I would re-emphasise it's not the presence, but the height that irks us. I've never been opposed in principle to sheds being built there. The planning officer covered most of my points in the follow-up report, but I'll pick on a few specific points if I may to highlight. The garden might well be L-shaped as stated, but the paved area is deliberately at the southern end to maximise the sunlight. That's the side where obviously outside activity and socialising takes place. The boundary planting has indeed grown taller in places as stated, but that's largely because this year, for the first time in 38 years, I have not touched that border. For established, in the officer's original report, you could read overgrown, unkempt and bedraggled. I've always kept it compact and neat, but not usually in this state. More than ever, I still regard 1 metre above a 1.7 metre fence an unacceptable visual intrusion. Perceptible, I think, was the word used in the report. That way understates it. Any views of the structure minimal? Well, I would suggest the photos I submitted, particularly the winter ones, suggest otherwise. With the rear of Mr. Khan's garden by the old Royal Navy site rising up to the brow of Crawley Green Hill, we used to have a splendid outlook, especially from indoors. No more. It ends abruptly, about 6 metres away with a blank black wall. It doesn't blend in, is a depressing sight. It's definitely a major loss of outlook for us. Notwithstanding what the planning officer says, I still believe the gym as constructed blights our garden and diminishes our enjoyment in many ways. You may have noted, as I have, that the whole caboodle is visible nowhere from within Mr. Khan's dwelling. We get all the adverse impact and how. Frankly, he could not have inconvenienced us anymore if he tried. In conclusion, I'm saddened it has come to this and can't help but reflect that if a more collaborative approach had been adopted from the outset, rather than a rather surreptitious one, trying to avoid any outside involvement, it might well have saved a lot of time, trouble, aggravation and money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by members to the objector? Yeah, Francis Dear.
Thanks. In your sort of opening remarks, I think you implied, and I just want to be clear about this, that the building as constructed is not as per the plans submitted.
No, because it's on sloping ground. The plans rather indicate, if you have a cursory glance, it's flat ground, but it slopes both south to north and west to east. The measurements taken, I presume, are those at the front, but with the ground sloping away beneath, the measurements would obviously be greater at the back because the ground level is lower.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Questions by members to the planning officer. Councillor.
Thanks, Chair. My question is in relation to the amenity space of the property on which the development was put. It looks like a relatively large garden, but with the additional development, does it still comply with the 90 square metre requirement as per the local plan?
I don't have the exact measurements for it, but of looking at it, it would exceed 90 square metres with the outbuildings on the site as well.
Okay, is there any way of confirming that for certain?
Not at the moment, that wouldn't be to officially confirm it, but if I show you the picture, it would appear clear that it is over 19 metres squared. You can see there's the rear garden area, and then there's the block plan to the right, and there's a large area of garden space remaining. But
Yeah, it's hard to judge without a scale. I mean, it possibly does, but yeah, it's hard to judge without a scale that it complies with the local plan. And just leading on to another question that the objector mentioned that it's on a slope, and so measurements actually on the applicant's side may indicate that it's lower than it is on the objector's side. Has that level difference actually been considered in the assessing the visual impact of the building?
I did assess the visual impact from their view in terms of the height, and that it was compared with the permitted development right criteria for outbuildings. Whether it's on a slope or not, you would measure it from where the ground is. So it's still within the height limits. It's just that the site is sloped.
Okay, so the formal measurement is usually done from the side of where the building is, rather than the visual impact of the say the objector side. Okay.
Yes.
being no further questions, thank you very much. And there's been an with my paperwork. Faisal Khan, as the applicant, your turn to speak for up to 5 minutes.
Chair and members of the committee, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. The planning officer has carefully reviewed the application and has recommended approval, confirming that the building are modest in scale, within permitted development limits, and in keeping with both local and national policy. I have read my neighbor's objection in detail. It is lengthy, but many points are either not relevant to the planning policy or are based on incorrect assumptions. I do not wish to waste committee's time by addressing those in detail. Instead, I will focus on the 3 key planning points that matters here. Height and scale. The building height is 2.45 meter. That was also measured by the enforcement officer who attended the site twice, which is below the 2.5 meter permitted development limit. Importantly, planning rules requires that where land is sloping, height is measured from the highest ground level adjacent to the building, which has been done correctly in this case. Even with ground level differences, the officer confirmed the building do not cause harmful overshadowing or dominate neighboring gardens. Point 2, amenity. There is no loss of privacy or sunlight to adjoining properties. While I respect that my neighbor may dislike the view, planning law makes clear that a private view is not a material planning consideration. In fact, I have photographs showing that neighbors planting at the rear is already taller than the roof of the outbuildings, and I have a video to show that there is no loss of light. Point 3, design and material. The anthracite gray finish is modern, subdued, and non-reflective. The finish also matches with the color of my boundary fences and patio tiles. So the overall look is consistent, and the officer has confirmed the design is acceptable. The buildings are for domestic use only, and I understand that any change would require a separate application. Concerns about future misuse are therefore not relevant. I therefore respectfully ask the committee to follow the officer's recommendation and approve the application. I trust members will remain impartial and make their decision fairly in line with the planning merits of the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by members to the applicant?
Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure whether this was covered in the officer's report, but why is this a retrospective application as opposed to filing in advance?
So when I planned for this construction, I checked all the rules carefully, and then it fell within the permitted development rights. Obviously, at that time, I didn't know that those rights are restricted in my area. So it came to light when the enforcement officer attended the site and the team leader emailed me.
Yeah, Francis.
Can I just check something?
Yeah.
It's if it had come to us as an application, we've got to consider it on its merits. Because it's retrospective, that's irrelevant to this. We've still got to consider it on its merits. Is that correct?
An application. Councillor Franks.
Yeah, just one. The update sheet that was circulated to members, I believe it was yesterday, talks about an additional condition to ensure the outbuilding is only used as ancillary to the main accommodation as a single family dwelling house. I take it, is that condition going to be added to the ones in the printed agenda?
The condition is on the original application. I'm not sure what you're referring to from the update sheet. Let me just check. I think that is where I've mentioned the condition again, just when I address the objector's comments, rather than it being an additional condition added onto the recommendation. There are conditions on the recommendation that ensure that it will remain as a single family dwelling.
They did not say the outbuilding should be used only ancillary to that use.
No, it doesn't.
The additional condition we were told in the update sheet was going to be added. Are you saying that's not going to be added?
I think that was misconstrued in the way that I wrote it, but that condition can also be added to ensure that it remains ancillary to the dwelling, to the main dwelling. No. It's not on the conditions at the moment, but it can be added if that's something that the committee would like.
Okay, the next question.
Yes. Yes,
Thank
it
you.
will be added.
That's harder work than it needed to be, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Are there any comments? There being no comments, then the recommendation is before you to approve, and I'll move the recommendation.
I'll second it.
Angela?
Councillor Bridgen,
Against.
Councillor Franks,
Again,
Councillor Haniff,
For.
Councillor Khan,
For.
Councillor Mead,
Against.
Councillor Steer,
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For. That's 4, 4 and 3 against, so it carries. So planning permission has been granted. Thank you. We'll now go on to the next item, which is Power Court. Wait a second. Yeah, he emailed me today. David, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Before starting the presentation, can I just refer to the recommendation at 2 on the report? For the avoidance of doubt, the removal of affordable housing is subject to the inclusion of a review mechanism and the marketing of the residential units for Luton residents first, prior to the general marketing of the residential development. If I could have the first slide, please, which is the location. Members will be familiar with the location of the Power Court site, which is shown on this slide. The site comprises two elements which are more obviously displayed on slide 2, please. Thank you. Planning permission was granted under reference 20-01587, with the Section 1 agreement being completed on the 1st of September 2022 and the decision notice issued at the same time. The legal background to this request for a deed of variation is set out in paragraphs 27 to 31 of the committee report. In short, where a Section 106 agreement is less than 5 years old, a formal application is not required to vary the agreement, but an assessment must be made by the local planning authority as to whether to agree to amend the original agreement. Any such agreement has to be entered into by a deed. I should also add that a right of appeal to the Secretary of State only comes into play if a Section 1 agreement is more than 5 years old. In this case, the date would be the 1st of September 2027. In this case, therefore, there is no right of appeal under the current provisions of the Act. If I could have the next slide, please. In this case, the variation sought relates to the following matters to which there is reference in paragraphs 20 to 25 of the report. These relate to affordable housing, which is Schedules 2 and 3 of the Section 106, highways contributions, Schedule 7, and triggers for contributions to be paid, Schedules 6 and 8. If I deal first with Schedule 2 and then following on Schedule 3. The next slide, please. Schedule 2 relates to affordable housing. Schedule 2 of the extant Section 106 agreement requires 20% of affordable housing to be provided as a condition of the grant of planning permission for the substantive application. Paragraphs 43 to 65 of the report set out in detail the applicant's case for the removal of Schedule 2 and the officer's consideration of those details. The applicant's case is based on a viability statement to support the proposition that the development is unviable if the requirement to provide affordable housing is to be pursued. Accordingly, the local planning authority sought an independent review of the viability statement by BNP Paribas. As set out in the report, the assessment was made on the basis of 3 scenarios. These are set out in paragraphs 45 to 49. On the basis of these assessments, it was concluded that the development as proposed, taking into account the 3 scenarios, would all result in a profit deficit of varying degrees. In order to address an ambiguity regarding sales values for the scheme highlighted by BNP Paribas in their report, a review mechanism was recommended to be included. This review will be triggered during the building out of the scheme, where actual sales values and costs will be reflected as part of the review, and there can be a clawback of funds. There is reference in the report to Homes England, paragraphs 51 to 57. Their involvement is not guaranteed and is not therefore a material consideration in the decision making. The reality is that the effect of this variation to the Section 106 would be to remove the provision of affordable housing as a requirement of the grant of planning permission under reference 201587. It is acknowledged that the results of this independent assessment are disappointing. They should nevertheless be accepted for the reasons set out fully in paragraphs 59 to 65 of the report. The key elements in this respect are as follows. The redevelopment of Power Court includes a major component, the provision of 1,200 new homes. Secondly, the importance of the redevelopment of Power Court to the aims and objectives of the local plan. This is evidenced by the site's strategic allocation in the local plan policy LLP9. It would be detrimental to the area and objectives of the local plan if this part of the regeneration of Power Court were not to come forward at all. There are specific benefits to the economy, creation of job opportunities during the construction period, and additional consumer and other commercial and community benefits would also be lost. The review mechanism would ensure there would be a further opportunity to scrutinise the viability of the scheme once actual build costs, infrastructure costs, and sales values were known, having regard to the circumstances at the time. The applicant has agreed to market any units built out within the development such that they will be marketed locally to residents in Luton who would be given the first opportunity to purchase. This can be captured in the section variation to the Section 106 agreement. The NPPF recognises that there may be changes in circumstances, and in paragraph 59 it is stated that the weight to be given to a viability assessment is a matter for the decision maker, having regard to all the circumstances in the case. It is unfortunate that affordable housing would be lost, but it is considered that there would be many wider benefits associated with the overall regeneration of the Power Court site, paragraphs 60 to 61. The site has remained undeveloped for a considerable number of years. Indeed, the applicant, in submitting the application for the whole of the Power Court site in 2016, this was the first application since 2005. In conclusion, it is considered that the applicant's financial viability assessment has been robustly tested by an independent assessor. where it is concluded that the implementation of the planning permission granted under 20.01.587 with the inclusion of affordable housing as required by Schedule 2 of the current Section 106 agreement is not viable. On this basis, it is recommended that Section 106 is amended accordingly. Schedule 3 relates to affordable housing monitoring. If members agree that the deed of variation to remove the requirement of affordable housing is acceptable, then there is no need for the monitoring agreement to be included in Section 106 agreement. The next slide, please. Schedule 6 relates to employment, skill, procurement and training strategy, paragraph 67 and 69 of the report. The variation of this schedule of the agreement is required to ensure that public realm works allowing access to the stadium can be undertaken without triggering the requirement for the strategy to be submitted. By doing this, it can be wholly focused on the redevelopment of the site when it comes forward. The overall requirement for the strategy will remain as part of the Section 106 agreement. If I could have the next slide, please. Schedule 7, highway contributions. This amendment has been brought about by the need to disaggregate the contributions for highways related to works in respect of the stadium development and the residential development. The amendments to the level of contribution is considered to reflect the extent of the works now required as necessary to make the residential development acceptable in planning terms. It is thus considered that this variation is acceptable. I could have the next slide, please. Schedule 8, other financial contributions. The justification of altering the triggers, as with Schedules 6 and 7, is to exclude the public realm phase from the commencement of development, ensuring the contributions are payable at the same time as the residential parcels and the other built development comes forward. These contributions are only applicable to the residential use of the site. This variation will ensure that the public realm phase can be implemented to facilitate the stadium. These payments, which relate to education, fire hydrants, CCTV, waste and museums, will continue to be part of the agreement. If I could have the final slide, please. Conclusion. The issues to consider are as follows. Firstly, whether to accept the viability issues as cited by the applicant and as considered by the council's independent assessor. Secondly, to accept the alterations to the highway contributions. And finally, to accept the alterations to the triggers for the contributions to be paid to the council. The officer's view is that the viability position should be accepted, as there are still significant benefits of the redevelopment of this part of the Power Court site. There is the potential future contributions being captured via a viability review mechanism. Additionally, a significant benefit is the provision of dwellings to be marketed locally to Luton residents in the first instance before wider marketing. However, the alternative could be the site not coming forward or having to defend a position which independent advises not to accept. The highways contributions now reflect a disaggregation of funding appropriately allocated to the two developments at Power Court. The triggers will allow the stadium development to make the public realm provision required to bring the stadium forward in advance of the remainder of the development at Power Court. At the end of the day, this is a matter of balancing the loss of affordable housing against the other benefits which would flow from the development of the site taking place. The recommendation is to accept this viability position, subject to the review mechanism and marketing of the residentials for Luton residents first, the variation of the highways contribution and the alteration to triggers, and to vary the Section 106 agreement accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. We'll ask questions later on, but I'll ask Michael Moran to speak. Usually up to 5 minutes, but I could be flexible. Do you want to ask a question now to the planning officer? Yeah, okay. We'll listen to the applicant's representative first. Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Moran, Chief Operating Officer, 2020 Developments, and I genuinely appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. As you've heard, the proposal before you tonight seeks an amendment to the relevant Section 106 agreement to remove the obligation for affordable housing at Power Court. This is not something that we propose lightly. Power Court has always been a challenging site and was even described as being undevelopable by the former owner British Land, one of the UK's biggest property developers prior to our involvement 10 years ago. As you know from previous applications, we have great aspirations for Power Court because we believe in the site and its potential to deliver for Luton. However, the economics of the site do not add up. The financial viability appraisals you've heard and seen in front of you make clear that affordable housing is not possible in the current environment. However, you've heard similar words to that effect said to you time and time again over the years about numerous other developments in Luton. So you're right now to feel fed up, angry and disappointed at hearing them again this evening. What I want to say to you here is that this site is different, the numbers are different, and as a developer, we are far removed from a flash-in-the-pan outfit here to make a quick buck. We're in this for the long haul. More importantly, what we are proposing here this evening is the only way to not only deliver the regeneration and new housing that Luton needs, but to act as a pathway to get us back to the policy-compliant, affordable housing we all want to see at Power Court. To explain all this, let me start by saying that we've been working closely with Homes England on this site since the middle of the pandemic. With build costs and infrastructure costs skyrocketing, Homes England had long identified our site as one that needed assistance. The viability gap, as stated and verified at over 40 million, is huge. It's bigger than anything seen previously on any other site in Luton, including that of the stage. But what about the stadium? And couldn't the football club do more to put its hand in its pocket? That was actually the first question Homes England and their forensic consultants asked us a couple of years ago. So let me be very clear when I say that no public money is funding the stadium. It stands on its own 2 feet. All the numbers presented and are calculated with the stadium carrying its share of costs. That's been verified by multiple independent consultants. And neither Homes England nor the football club would have it any other way. Where we've got to now is a position with Homes England where we're at the final business case approval for a significant grant to fund the relevant infrastructure needed for the housing. This will help close the viability gap, as too does 2020 developments, foregoing the in excess of 10 million that we've spent on the land originally. But Homes England's grant can only be used as a course of last resort, and hence now having to have this discussion about the affordable element. However, at the same time, we are talking to the Homes England team in their grants team. As well as talking to the Homes England grants team, we are speaking to the affordable housing team at Homes England. Together with Luton Borough Council's housing team, we're looking to find alternative ways to get the affordable element on the site. Now, this may sound complicated for a second, but it really isn't. The affordable housing team at Homes England can only get involved to deliver more affordable housing than that which the developer has agreed in the Section 106 agreement. Hence, at 20% currently, we're stuck because of the viability issues. By reducing it to 0, we then have a base to work back up to where we want to get to with Homes England. This evening, we stand at a crossroads for the site. Delivering new housing and regeneration in Luton has never been easy for anybody. But the potential for a significant grant coming in from central government to unlock this housing scheme is a game changer. However, on the flip side, to be clear, without this grant funding from Homes England, no housing at all will be delivered at Power Court in the foreseeable future. This will have a knock-on implications for us having to relook at the site, the council's own housing delivery plan, and the viability of other schemes in the town. The numbers are very clear. We are not trying to pull a fast one. And going forward, all financial appraisals are transparent and we will be kept under full review so that if anything changes, the council would be involved and the viability reassessed. In summary, we believe passionately in the need for Power Court to be developed for new housing and a new high quality public realm and quarter for the town. We're not doing this for financial gain, but for the wider community benefit that it would bring. I'm open to any questions and ask you please to support 2020 developments and the football club in this journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I guess there may be a few questions. Francis first and David. Yeah? Please let you go, David. You go.
Thank you. Okay, there does seem to be some confusion over whether the sale of the housing sites, proceeds of, is necessary for financing the stadium construction. Can you just clear us out whether, where exactly you are on that, please?
There's absolutely no confusion from my perspective. The stadium is self-financing. It does not require the residential to build the stadium. So we've got a whole a commercial finance plan for the stadium that does not depend on the residential.
Thank you. That's nice and clear. Moving on to viability then, you did offer an explanation of sorts in your presentation, but I'm afraid it didn't come across very clearly to me. So the question is, if the site is not viable anyway, why not wait until you get Homes England's decision on the grant before you try to remove the 20% commitment? I guess the conclusion of my question would be that if you get the grant, you probably don't need to remove the 20%. And if you don't, then maybe you do. Just wonder why you don't wait till you get the decision before you make this application.
Apologies, Councillor Franks, if I didn't make that clear. We can only access Homes England's grant scheme as the effectively the last resort to make a scheme viable. Before Homes England will do a final adjudication on the viability of the scheme, they require a developer to have effectively exhausted all standard routes to viability. So one of those is the affordable element, which top of my head would add approximately 10 million-ish to that extra viability gap. So the viability gap here, again, I've got the figure in front of me, is quoted at 47 million. From a Homes England perspective, that viability gap is quite so stark that they very much had expected us to have gone through this process before they could make a decision on the grant funding for Luton.
The logic of that is a bit hard to follow, but I think I understand what you're saying now. Thank you for that. Luton 2020 isn't the only developer to come in and tell us that building costs have escalated over the last few years, but none of them ever mention the fact that private rents in Luton have gone up by 42% in the last 4 years. So if you're going to rent the flats out, you're going to get a lot more money for them. And the price of houses and flats has gone up by 18% in Luton in the last 2 years. So if you're going to sell them, there's more money coming in from the sale. Have you taken that into consideration as well as the increased building costs?
Yes, both. Yes, we certainly have. Our viability consultants have taken those numbers into consideration, as well as the council's own viability consultants. Sales values of new properties in Luton have gone down over the last couple of years, whilst build costs have gone up by something like 50%. So it's very challenging. But again, I'd go back to the previous comment that we're not just breezing in and out to flip this on to somebody else. So all of the discussions that we're trying to do here are about a long-term plan for the site. Hence the ongoing review mechanism, that if things do change, then that's something for the council to look at.
Thank you, Chair. Final question from me then on the contamination issue. I've been around long enough to remember at least two. British Land isn't the only one. There was the Irish company as well, very interested in developing there before them. These fell largely on the grounds of the cost of dealing with the contamination, but it's been known for years that there must be chemical contamination as a result of the coal-fired power station that stood there for donkey's years. It's been known for years that the electricity substation in the middle of the site was going to have to be moved. That can't be cheap. And it's been known for years that the river culvert is also in some parts in a poor condition. All of these are extremely expensive problems. Surely 2020 knew about them before they bought the site?
We did know about them. In each instance, the costs have gone up. Of each of those items, the costs have gone up very significantly over the last 5 to 7 years. In any one of those instances, it's effectively public information. The substation has gone into the tens of millions from what it was first quoted. But I'd bring you back to our commitment to taking forward that site. So to reiterate, the stadium scheme, the central portion of the site is progressing. So we've taken on that challenge of decontaminating the site, of dealing with the culvert, of dealing with the substation, because we're committed to it. It's now the reality of that viability that we have reached out to central government with Homes England and working with them. So we're in this for the long haul. I think in terms of those viability issues, it's the scale of them that has kind of got out of, has really impacted this viability, as well as Luton stagnating. Because I think the other element here that you'll have heard from a lot of other developers is that it's the lack of new market evidence that's holding back viability in the town. So hence the comment that if we can deliver this, we set a new positive benchmark for the town, and that can help bring forward a lot of other schemes.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. That's very helpful.
Francis, your turn now.
Thanks. I just want to understand a bit more about the Homes England grant. If I can paraphrase a bit what I think you said, you're saying if you commit to 20% affordable, Homes England won't help out. If you take that all away and you go to zero, Homes England will sort of go, oh, that's shocking. We're look at granting. Is that sort of an accurate paraphrase of your last?
Thank you for asking the question and giving me the chance to answer in a more rounded, open way. I completely agree. It sounds a little odd, I think, but it's odd when it's viewed in the context of also looking to reduce the affordable. Standing on its own, very simply, Homes England have a team of people and a grant fund wanting to increase affordable homes delivery across the country. But the mandate of that grant fund cannot, if you want, help out developers to deliver what they're already contracted to deliver. So if the finances were more positive and we were absolutely able to deliver 20% anyway, then we could have that conversation with Homes England to go from 20% to 30%, for example. It's simply that Homes England, that fund pot wants to top things up, but we need to get it to a position at which that topping up is viable on its own. But I'd go back to the point that it's an indication of, for 2020 developments, what our DNA, what we aspire to do, that we want to work with the council and Homes England to bring those affordable homes back to the site. So we're not trying to run away from affordable housing. We're just trying to find ways to make it deliverable.
Yeah, I understand you're not trying to run away from affordable housing, but would Homes England top up to 20%, or would it be a lesser percentage, or are you not in a position to know?
The discussions we've had is to get it back to 20%. Apologies. The discussions we've had are to get it back to 20%.
And I suppose the other question is, when you entered into this 106 agreement, you must have known that was the case, that Homes England would top up.
And no, not definitively. So the timeline, 2021, 2022, Homes England had approached us with regards to the site in a general sense, but the viability has worsened since then. Equally, Homes England's position has clarified since then with the different, changes of government and changes of policy and approach. So we've been sort of in discussions with Homes England for a number of years. Like many big public sector groups, they've taken a while to clarify their position, but they're now fully on board. And again, hopefully, we'll be able to go forward and announce that clearly very soon. But in specific answer to your question, no, it wasn't definitively known back in 2022, no.
So when you say Homes England are fully on board, which you just have said, does that mean, in your opinion, they're willing to go to top up to the 20% affordable?
Just for the sake of everyone, just to clarify, the two parallel discussions with Homes England, one for the infrastructure grant fund. We've gone through a concept stage, a business case stage. We're hopefully now at the final stage. That's looking very positive. The affordable homes one is equally positive, and I think discussions with council officers in your housing team are of a similar mindset, that Luton's crying out for affordable homes, and Homes England identify this as a site, and for us as a developer, we're happy and keen to commit to that proportion of homes being on site. So yes, positive.
So when you use the expression fully on board, in your mind, they will top up to 20%, as long as you say you can't do any affordable housing.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I've got questions both for the planning officer and the applicant. For the applicant, do you want all the questions at once or one by one? How about three? Okay. First question is, I was going to ask this of the officer applicant. What triggered the review of the social housing element? Why wasn't the Homes England grant issue identified earlier? At what stage of the development of Power Corp will the houses be built? Before, after at the same time? And then finally, who are the intended residents of, who do you have in mind living in those properties? Because I think one of the arguments could be made about the social housing element. It's not very attractive to families, these 1-2 bedroom developments. So it's not very family friendly. So those are my questions. If you like, I can repeat them.
I think I've got the idea there. I think trying to take it in reverse. I think the key thing, discussion then with Luton Borough Council's housing team to ensure that the affordable is in the right place and the right design. So the way we've designed the site, there's effectively, a central plot there that we would effectively give to work with Homes England and the council so that it's properly designed, it's the right place. That would be for the council to decide who's there. Just touching on that slightly, the the wording in the Section 106 agreement to market to Lutonians first. That's one that we feel strongly about, because we think there's a market there that we've been encouraged by our community. So I think we believe there's an obligation to try and give local residents a chance to purchase first. In terms of stages of being built, almost if you look at the site, the nature of the site lends itself to the stadium can be built in parallel with the first major residential block. So a key criteria for Homes England are that by 2029, as much, if not all, of the housing is under construction or is in train. So their desire is to see build programs, and we've been out to the market with prospective contractors on that. So we think we can meet their aspirations for timing. I guess in answer to the question why Homes England, did we know there was an issue earlier? Could we not have got them on board earlier? Yes is the honest answer. We have been talking to them for a number of years. I think either side of the general election, things changed quite a bit, and I think it took a bit of time for them to clarify their policies. But the viability issue has got worse, and I think it's not just the raw numbers themselves, but developers' appetite and banks' appetite to development. So it's not just the variance of a build cost and a sales cost; it's an attitude of people to take risks. And I think in terms of triggers of social elements, where we're in the hands of the council. So I think that would then be an ongoing discussion to be policy compliant.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you. Actually, a lot of the questions I wanted to ask have already been asked and answered, so thank you for that. However, one of the questions that kept popping up that came to mind was in reference to paragraph 56, where it says that alternative means of affordable housing have been explored, or there is different ways of doing it. So I wonder if the Luton 2020 developments is willing to give building rights to a different developer who is able to meet the affordable housing provision. So, for example, I know that you're in discussions as well as with the grants team, but also with the affordable housing team at Homes England. Would you be open to sort of giving them the building rights to be able to get on with it and deliver those affordable homes that we need?
Yes, in a nutshell, and that's working with a council's, a council selected RHP that the council want to work with. So yes is the short answer to that. I think in engaging with Homes England across the site, they've taken the totality of the number of units and the costs just simply from the outset, and I think that's where the first part of the discussion gets to, about removing that affordable commitment to get it to become viable. Because I think, as I was saying earlier about attitudes to risk, is that, for example, again, just to be absolutely clear, that 2020 developments, we're not looking to simply, talk to you today, and then at some point in the next month or two start putting for sale boards and selling off the sites to the best bidder on eBay. That's not the way sites will come forward to the long-term good. So for the sites, the residential sites in question, we'll partner in JV with a housing contractor. So we're not seeking a land receipt up front. We'll delay that, to make sure that the housing can come forward. So we would take that approach to anything that we can to deliver the social housing that's needed.
I do have another question.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, that option isn't off the table. So what you're saying is that everything is being explored in the background, whilst you seek this approval for removal of this Section 106 agreement condition?
Yeah, it does become in a sort of sequential sense that until we can secure the Homes England infrastructure grant, then the site is not remotely viable. You know, the numbers are striking in the reports. So to some extent, any other discussion is kind of peripheral until you can address that infrastructure grant gap. Once we can address that, then how we deliver affordable homes on the site becomes, you know, consider everything on the table. And hence, literally, the discussion thus far is to get the Homes England Affordable Grants team around the table with your council housing officers around the table, because that's what 2020 is about, to try and deliver that for the good of the town.
Okay. Any further questions? Oh, Clive Mead.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to another side of this development, or the flats, who's going to be selling them? Will you be selling them, or will an agent be selling them? The reason I'm asking, I'm afraid that the buy-to-let brigade are going to move in and snap up a lot of these homes, renting them out at rents that local people won't be able to afford, and only London people will be. And therefore, any aspirations of getting local people into these homes is going to go up in smoke, and to a large extent anyway.
Thank you for the question. To explain the sales process, so we've been engaging with the housing market, the housing developer market. So 2020 developments will not build every flat, will not, you know, build every property. What we will do is partner up with a house builder in a joint venture structure. So to try and encourage development in Luton, we won't price the plot out of the market. We'll try and work with them over the longer term. That's the best way to get the best house builder on board, but equally it gives us a bit of a say around the table. And so there's probably a bit of a balance there, that there needs to be some reality to, from an economic perspective, that the scheme is viable. But for example, the way in which so far to date we've worked with local contractors on site, that we've been able to do that thus far. We would hope we can have the same skills and abilities to ensure local people have at least as good a chance as anyone to acquire the properties. So we'll do our very best, is what I can say. But 2020 developments will be around the table on all of the plots going forward. We will not be simply selling them off to the highest bidder and having no more involvement. So the only comfort that we can offer is we'll still be involved to try and ensure that local angle.
Yeah, I think that we had the same problem with Strawberry Star. We had a clause that Luton residents first. Didn't get many offers because obviously they were priced out of the market anyway, and the vast majority is buy to let, and it's something we didn't want to see at all on this particular site. But I think the questions have been asked about selling it on to another developer, but then the problem wouldn't go away. The other developer would be coming back to us again and saying we can't afford it, 20%. Are there any further questions to Michael? Yeah, Jakob.
Questions to the planning officer? No.
We let Michael go. Any further questions? Okay, yeah. Michael, you can relax now. Any questions to the planning officer? Jakob.
Yeah, could you elaborate further why you share the optimistic view that that there will be a detrimental impact to the development of a lack of affordable housing, where you mentioned in the report that there will be an increase in the improvement in the local economy in terms of employment and shops and etc. Could you elaborate further on that? And second question, just so I've got my hearing aids. Is the section 106, are those payments going to stay the same as mentioned in the report? Thank you.
Well, the way the report approaches this is in two ways. Is firstly to look at the viability assessment, the testing of that viability assessment by the council's independent assessor. The conclusion was that the development with affordable housing is unviable. The balance then to be made is whether or not the loss of affordable housing is outweighed by the other benefits which are outlined in the report. For example, the coming forward of 1,200 dwellings, which would obviously have implications on the current shortfall that the council has on its 5-year housing land supply. The benefits of building up the community. It's not only the residential development that we're talking about in terms of 2001-587, we're also talking about the other uses on the ground floor, the works to the River Lee, the public realm areas, which will come forward despite 2001-587, because they'll come forward as a consequence of the need for them to be related to the stadium. So it's a balance between the two. And the question is whether or not these benefits of employment during the construction period, employment after the construction period for the commercial uses that take place, the redevelopment of the site, the compliance with policy LLP 9, it's a balancing of those factors. So whilst the loss of affordable housing is, as I've said in the report, disappointing, it has to be weighed against these other benefits. Michael Moran has said that if the affordable housing remains to be included, then the site will not come forward. As Councillor Franks has said, clearly it's a difficult site. It has been, and it has been for a considerable number of years. So it's a matter of a balance of all of those factors.
David Franks.
Yeah, just a couple of points, please. First of all, I'm curious as to why the council chooses BNP Paribas as its external advisor. Why did you choose a French bank?
Good evening, members, Chair. It's Sunny Sahadman, Head of Planning. I think we chose BNP Paribas because they're one of the best viability experts in the country. They deal with pretty much all the London boroughs, the ones that have prominent development. I personally have a previous relationship working with them in other councils. And members may recall we used a different viability consultant before. And when I came in, I felt that they weren't necessarily vigorous enough in pursuing the right position in terms of viability for us in Luton. And we needed to get one of the market leaders in terms of interrogating viability for in terms of development for us and informing our committee, and that's why they're on board. We also use another consultant, Chris White Associates, who has provided training. He is also very prominent, and he only offers consultancy for local authorities, so he doesn't work on the other side. So that's another prominent consultant, viability consultant that we use.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. I guess, to make it quite clear that I'm not in any way questioning BNP Paribas or their abilities or their integrity or anything else about them, just in case somebody suggests that I have been.
I think they're listening to you as well because they're online. If there's any particular questions, I think they're listening to you. What you're saying about them.
That's fine.
Because they're online in case members have any questions. So if you want to address them directly, please do so.
Thank you very much. But no, I'm not questioning them or the judgment of our officers either. Just curious as to why a French bank was involved. The other question I've got then is over the triggers. If I've got this right, the changing of the triggers is shifting the Section 106 financial liabilities from the stadium to the housing development. Have I got that right?
The triggers as they currently stand are on the basis of the commencement of development. The commencement of the public realm, because it relates to the 01587 site, the residential scheme, would therefore be triggered when that work takes place. But that work is required to take place as a condition of the grant of planning permission for the stadium. Clearly, it has to take place because otherwise there would be no access to the stadium. It would become tortuous and it would be the equivalent of walking over a ploughed field, as it were. So what this does is it delays the triggering to when the actual development commences for the 20-01587 application itself. It does delay it, but the financial responsibility, depending upon where 2020 are tied up with this, but the application for the stadium and the application for the residential scheme are two separate entities. And so therefore what would happen is that it would delay the trigger. It would allow the public realm works to go in, because at the moment, the way it's worded is that if the public realm works goes in, then it triggers all the requirements for the payments to be made. Is that as clear as mud?
It was exactly as clear as mud. Thank you. It's beginning to look to me as though I've got this the wrong way around, but I'm just anxious to know when, first of all, when the public realm contribution is triggered, and then when the rest of the education, etc., and all the other stuff is triggered. At which stage in the development, do these happen?
Well, there's no trigger for public realm works payment. Those are to be undertaken. The payments that we're talking about, well, what we're talking about in terms of the Section 106 is, firstly, when the training and employment strategy is to be submitted, and that relates to the building works for the residential scheme. And in terms of the other contributions, the likes of education, again, that would only come forward when the residential scheme is commenced or at part way through. I think it's when 60 or 70% of them completed and occupied, then that payment would be triggered. In terms of CCTV, fire hydrants and waste management, those are all related to the residential scheme and not to the stadium. So what this does is, the word you use, delay. It will delay any of the payments or any submission of the employment strategy coming forward. They would come forward post the provision of the public realm, in effect.
So it doesn't delay the public realm work at all?
No, well, the public realm works have to come forward as a consequence of the grant of permission for the stadium, because they have to allow access from the station through the residential site onto the stadium piazzas and plazas around the stadium where the circulation area is.
Any further questions to the planning officer? Any comments? David.
There are consequences of having been around as long as I have. I remember, for example, the period when something like 1,500, maybe more, homes were demolished in the town centre, and the town centre became pretty much depopulated as a result. And I'm sure in my own mind, the town centre has suffered immensely as a direct result of that. So one of the advantages of this scheme seems to me is it triggers a significant repopulation of the town centre, and I see that as a huge benefit. In consequence, and in view of the assurances and additional information we've received this evening, I am inclined to support the application.
Jakob.
Is there anybody online from the housing team? Sorry, is there anybody online from our housing team?
I think, is there? No, I don't think so. Just the independent assessor.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, sorry, the references to Homes England in the actual report, 51 to 55, doesn't sort of square with what we've been told the position is from the applicant. So I would have liked to have seen more of that in the report itself, really.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen Sparshot, planning solicitor. I understand exactly why the applicant has explained the financial situation and how Homes England can get involved and what their preconditions for getting involved are. And I think the applicant has explained that very well. But what I think, I've heard the word assurances, I understand that. And I understand your point about you would have liked to have heard more about Homes England. I think you need to just row back on that for a minute, because the report does say, I believe it's paragraph 58, that there's no guarantee. You know, this application before you is to remove the affordable housing. And as indeed question was asked of the planning officer, what you need to do is weigh all the other benefits that will come with the view in mind that the affordable housing will not come. If it does, as the applicant has said, great, but you cannot rely on that as a reason for granting permission, because you're granting permission to remove the affordable housing. Sorry to sound, you know, like I'm giving bad news, but that is the reality of this application. Indeed, the word reality is included in those paragraphs as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I went on the Homes website and the Homes England website over the weekend to try and get some information, and it's quite extensive. It promises quite a lot, but it doesn't seem to say how you achieve that. There are grants available for everything, and especially social affordable housing, but they're a little bit light on facts. Maybe I should do some more reading, but I mean, it is possible, and I understand that they have the ability to give grants for social affordable housing, depending on the circumstances.
Thank you. I think whilst it's unfortunate that there is a viability, you know, it's not viable to be able to deliver this as the current Section 106 agreement stands, but I do understand it, and it is becoming increasingly difficult to be able to achieve that. But like Councillor Frank said, this is still an opportunity for us to be able to see some residential developments in Luton. So whilst it is disappointing that we are having to make this decision, I'm hopeful and reassured that there is conversations with Homes England to be able to support this delivery, and I'm confident that Luton 2020 developments will do good on their word. So I'm inclined to support this.
Yeah, Jakob.
Yeah, thank you. I would also like to echo what Councillor Franks just said. It's about time that plot of land. It's like a blot on the town centre is going to be repopulated, because Eddie's Bar is long gone. The whole vibrancy, the Melson Arms, that part of the town centre is long gone. Those of us that are old enough to remember it. And I too was a bit sceptical, because when I heard the affordable homes element was removed, I was like, what? But I've been reassured by what's been said tonight. I suppose that's why we have these meetings, so we can ask questions. And I am encouraged by what's been said, because we, as those publicly elected and the local authority have a duty to try and deliver as much affordable housing as possible. But then again, realize the need that we need to repopulate the town centre, because that in itself will re-energize the town centre in terms of having people not just living there but spending their money there in terms of going out for food, spending, living, and contributing. And it will also, in a way, complement the work of the Nighttime Economy Task Force, where we're trying to bring back life to the town centre. So with that, I'm also minded to support this. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we talk about developing the town centre, and I wrote down Flowers Way, Latimer Road, Cumberland Street, Haywood Tyler site, all given planning permission some time ago, not going ahead because of viability. And I would hate to see a brand new football stadium and a mass of wasteland all around it. So with that, and is there any further comments? Then the resolution, the recommendation is before you, and I'll move we approve the recommendation
I'll
as
second.
written.
Yep, I'll second that.
Councillor Franks.
For.
Councillor Haniff.
For.
Councillor Khan.
For.
Councillor Mead.
For.
Councillor Steer.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For. And that's unanimous, with all members of the Development Management Committee on the recommendation and the request of the applicant. So planning permission has been granted. Well, the 106 deed of variation. We don't get many of these, so it's worth saying. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on to the final agenda item tonight, which is the Dairy Crest, 79 Allen Road, page 70.
Just for your information, I phoned Bridget, he's on his way back.
All right, yeah, we'll wait then. His way back from where? Oh, yeah. I thought he'd gone home. No, it was just to make him come back.
Just make life difficult.
Yeah. Well, his team won last night. That's it.
Thank you, Chair. We're asking the members to consider the application at 79 Arundel Road for the demolition of the existing single-storey light industrial units and the replacement with 10 new build light industrial units, Class B1, B2 or Class E. The proposed buildings are arranged on the site in 2 linear tiers. Just go back a second. Gone forward one. That's fine. With 2-storey buildings to the street frontage, providing a gateway into the centre of the site with parking and provisions therein, A 3-storey linear building would occupy the rear of the site and form a continuous perimeter to the back of the site. Following the early issue of the committee report, there are a number of updates in relation to parking provision, sustainable drainage and flood mitigation. These items will be touched on towards the end of this presentation to allow for follow-up questions where needed. Existing buildings on the site provide a gross area of 856 square metres of light industrial use within the confines of a site comprising 2,580 square metres. The area is predominantly industrial use, although there are residential areas in the more distant neighbourhood. The site is in a designated Category B employment area. So I'll just go through some of the slides that I've included here. Hopefully some of these are self-explanatory. If this button works. It's just delayed. Oh, okay. It's very slow. Sorry, 1 second. Well, this is just the site plan and a view of the locality, the red line boundary. I'll just keep going through these. Apologies if there's a bit of a delay here. That's a view of the existing area, which clearly, hopefully clearly shows the industrial nature of the local vicinity and the existing 2 remaining buildings on Arundel Road. And just for context, a photo of Arundel Road as it is commonly with quite haphazard parking. And following that image, there should be shortly images of existing 3-storey buildings immediately adjacent to the site, opposite, and close by on Wingate Road. Looking at the policy plan map there, just looking at the Category B employment area boundary, our site is directly in the centre of the square. And we've got the Caleb Close residential development to the south. So the proposal would deliver new units comprising 2,554 square metres of floor area arranged within the new buildings over multiple stories. Informal discussions with the agent has indicated the anticipated use of the units will be building suppliers or similar businesses. The majority of the space within the development being used for stock or storage use. Layouts include for communal and accessible facilities, WCs, washrooms and kitchenettes, along with reception lobbies and open plan administrative office spaces. Existing parking provisions would be increased from 20 to 28, figures which, while below the provisions that would be required under the local plan, Appendix 2, parking and cycling standards, equating to 1 space per every 30 square metres, have been shown to be justified through supporting transport assessment data and calculations and agreed as adequate by Highways Engineering. It is also considered that improvements of the site will create an environment which will encourage more respectful parking behaviour in the immediate vicinity. We have reserved approval of details for finishes, materials and details of architectural elements, including the main entrance gate, by condition. In doing so, it is felt that the council will be able to ensure a suitable high level of design quality in accordance with policy LLP 25. Clarifications have been made over the provisions of new lighting of the site, including street lighting, improvements to the signage of the design signage of the units, material finishes in further detail and soft landscaping provisions. At present, The lead local flood authority has an outstanding objection to the proposals, but qualified their objection in stating that the LFA will consider reviewing this objection if the issues highlighted on the accompanying planning objection technical response document, which we have seen, are adequately addressed. Subsequent discussions with the agent confirmed agreement to the use of the conditions where necessary to cover the provisions of additional information as requested, and the updated drawings and reports will be issued to inform any further review by the LLFA. As such, it is considered that the development will be able to comply with the requirements under LLP 36, flood risk. Policy LLP 13 and LLP 14. The proposal will result in the creation of additional 1,698 square metres of floor space and an intensification of B1, B2 use in regards to the policies aforementioned. The principle of development would therefore be supported upon this basis. As noted in the report, further consideration must be given to the parts 1 and 3 of section A of the policy, being 14. No existing amenity space would be impacted, while the provision of planting beds on the site would be of benefit to the site and more generally. The mix of units would appear to be appropriate, ranging from larger scale units to the rear and subdivided units to the street front, which are perceived to be layout flexible. In a summary, based on the assessment of the information included in the application, the proposals are considered to constitute an improved and intensified use of the site, including provisions for clean energy generation, along with improved lighting, security, and hard landscaping, provisions for more sustainable transport, and an overall improvement in working environments for future employment. As such, the proposals are considered to be broadly in alignment with the requirements as set out in the Luton Local Plan and the relevant policies LLP 1, 2, 13 and 14, 25, 31 and 36. I'll just quickly, or not so quickly in the case maybe, go through the next few slides just to recover anything that might not have been covered in that summary. We can go back to these if there's any questions. And the recommendations for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, just noted the typo in the report. It mentions in the table that it's B2, but it's not B2. It's B1 light industrial. So just for members' benefit, there's flagging up there's a typo in the report.
Yeah, I'll alter that. Any questions? Any comments? No, we've got enough of that already. Probably more to come. Yeah, Clive.
Just seeing that plan, it's got two little garden type areas. Is it specified who looks after those and pays for the trimming and what have you and planting, etc.?
Thank you for the question. Yes, there's a management plan as part of the conditions that will have a plan for management of those spaces and landscaping specifications to be agreed.
Unless somebody parks on there first and to avoid it all. Okay, no questions, no comments? Yeah, Jakob?
Yeah, just comment, Chair. I'm glad this kind of development is happening because I know that area well. It's very unappealing. It looks a bit run down, and I think it just improves the overall aesthetic. And in that way, it adds a bit of value to that area because it's not very nice around there, and perhaps it can spark further regeneration of that part of the town. Especially, there's quite a few popular food establishments have opened there, so that area is getting a lot of footfall. And I think this kind of regeneration and this kind of development can only improve that area. Thank you, Chair.
You have a legal business being carried out along there rather than an illegal one. As I'm sure there are a few more. Any further comments? Then we'll move to the recommendation, and the recommendation is to approve subject to the conditions. That's seconded. Brilliant.
Seconded, Chair.
I'm glad you're still with us. Angela?
Four.
Councillor Franks. 4. Councillor Hannif.
4.
Councillor Khan.
4.
Councillor Mead.
4.
Councillor Steer.
4.
Councillor Taylor.
4. That sounds unanimous. That's carried. Planning permission is granted. That being the extent